for an ability to work well with founders and executive teams, and to provide hands-on CEO-level counseling to maximize profits and to accelerate growth, Drew Hanna is my next guest. In addition to his advisory work, Drew has also personally led 3 venture-backed business transformations for growth, resulting in acquisition, either as a CEO or as a vice president of sales and marketing. Drew, welcome to the Language of Business.
Hey, good to be here, Greg.
So what startup are you currently running or advising?
Well, I'm currently working with a company that's beyond the startup stage. We're in an expansion stage, and we provide a SaaS-based retail service for major omni-channel retailers like the people that sell cell phones and Verizon, AT&T, stores of that nature.
And for the benefit of our viewers, SAS stands for?
Software as a service.
Okay. And how do you find these opportunities, or better yet, how do they find you?
Well, typically I'm working with companies that are venture-backed. And very often the venture investors believe there's more potential performance that is afforded by the market conditions. So often I get referred into these companies by the investors.
Now, given your impressive track record of success in multiple industries and over multiple time frames, is there a template that you use or a formula when navigating a company from its introductory to its growth trajectory, or is it really that individualized?
Well, you know, I don't think there's a formula involved here, but I've observed there are a lot of similarities, regardless of the industry, that have more to do with the stage of growth that the company is at. So you might be looking at a company at the very early stage where they haven't actually proven out the business model. And I think the popular term is pivots. A management team may go through a number of pivots at that stage to lock in on a business model. The next set of steps really, though, are about getting on a rail and scaling that business through repeatable processes, being clear about who the target customer is and what the unmet need is, and then having the programs that support that mission.
So today's episode is focused on marketing plan implementation, and sometimes marketing metrics, while carefully developed and analyzed, have to be changed based on moves by the feedback or the competition. How do you sort of come out on that debate, et cetera?
Well, I think it's very important to pay attention to the numbers and to pay attention to what the marketplace is telling you. One of the most effective things I've observed and I've used as a tool is to conduct an in-depth win-loss analysis and really examine closely what are the commonalities and the differences between the companies that bought the product and the companies that chose not to buy the product.
And what are you analyzing for the win, and what are you analyzing for the loss?
Well, you really want to understand what the unique capabilities of the product are that are appealing to the customer. And in the case of the losses, you want to understand why the sales organization might be spending time on deals where it isn't a fit, or perhaps there's communication issues or things of that nature.
So let's talk about that a little bit more. So many executives today are focused on measurable goals versus marketing objectives. What's the difference, and how do you overlay that into your win-loss grid that you just mentioned a few moments ago?
Well, measurable goals are key. I mean, and it's basically just like what we learned back in grade school, the scientific method. You start with an hypothesis, and then you test it in the marketplace. And in this case, the hypothesis we're testing is our business model, our business plan, our value proposition.
Sure.
So you want to be gathering that data, and you want to constantly be adjusting based on that.
Those are the objectives. What about the goals?
Well, the goals can be more broad than that, and it might have to do with the progress in entering a new market. It might have to do with existing markets and the ability to expand there. And I think it's really important to understand from the point of view of where you intend to have growth. Is it because you're selling additional things, new features to existing customers, or are we taking our product into new markets? And understanding the differences between those situations and the level of risk.
Is your value add to whoever you're advising, et cetera?
Well, it's really important for the team to understand those things.
Terrific. You're watching The Language of Business. I'm Greg Stoller, and we're talking with Drew Hanna, who is both an entrepreneur and an advisor to startups. So on top of all of this, how do you find time to perform as a guitarist?
Well, that's a great question. It's a hobby, and honestly, I don't find as much time as I'd like to find to be doing that. But I think in any business, if you're going to perform at your best, you have to take care of yourself. And having good outside interests and having a balanced life, I think that's really important.
Something I've found, Drew, that has always fascinated me is CEOs, startups, presidents, if you will, often have a number of close confidants, one or two people who they turn to both in good times and bad to say, could you give me some advice or let me bounce something off of you? Rarely is the vice president of marketing one of those confidants. What do you think is the reason for that? And in spite of this, how have you managed to be so successful in your advisory work?
Right. Well, I think what's worked well for me is the fact that I can appreciate the issues that the CEO and the leadership team are facing pretty much at the executive and board level. Having operated at that level myself, I can bring that perspective to the dialogue. And at that level, typically the CEO doesn't, may talk to a board member, may talk to an investor, but they have an agenda. And in my working relationship with my clients, I'm there to support them, and that's my agenda.
What do you think has been your biggest success and your biggest failure so far?
Well, I think my biggest success really has been maybe outside of business and successfully raising 3 children and being married for 33 years. In business, I had a terrific win with a company called SoftBridge, which we grew very rapidly and was acquired by Teradyne. I thought that was a terrific win. It was a lot of fun, but actually I learned more from the outcome of a guitar business that I was running that did not produce a high return for the investors. And sometimes those battle scars are where you learn more.
Of course. So in the last few years of a startup, are you trying to grab an increasingly larger share of the existing pie, or are you simply trying to increase the size of the pie itself?
Yeah, that question really depends on the market situation. The whole issue that a company is balancing at that stage is really about focus. And is there a way to get to your growth goals more quickly by staying focused on the path that you're on, or by identifying adjacent market categories? And it's a matter of balancing the risk and reward of taking those kinds of chances.
How do you think you integrate best with other departments? Is it always marketing first, and the other departments are supporting marketing, or is it often the antithesis?
Well, I think the role of marketing really is to understand the needs of the customer and make sure that everybody in the company understands that story, that mission. And I think to the extent that the entire team can be clear about that, everybody will be marching in the same direction.
And do you tend to rely more on gut feel or the results or the review of hard-based analytical studies, et cetera?
Yeah, I'm very much a numbers guy, and one of the things that I've recognized as I've gone through more years of experience is I need to trust my gut a little bit more. So my natural tendency is to go get data and get lots of data and then get some more data.
Right.
So I'm learning to trust my gut. I think there's a balance there.
Thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
Today, we looked at the pros and cons of using different implementation approaches for the marketing section of the business plan. Next time, on The Language of Business, we'll move from discussing marketing to building a strong management team in the organizational section of the same document. I'm Greg Stoller. Thank you for watching The Language of Business. If you have a business in need of consulting assistance, or are an entrepreneur looking to develop a business plan, we may be able to help. Contact me, Greg Stoller, via email or through Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn. I look forward to hearing from you.